Prime Minister, thank you for coming in today and for your opening statement. And I was there at the launch of the funding for the National Access Plan for Universities. It's very encouraging. Obviously, my issue has always been around service delivery, and I know it's right there in your statement, and you acknowledge that up front. The challenges for delivery for children in particular with autism and their parents are just acute in my area, just acute. And I'm at the point, Minister, where I don't even know how to go back to parents anymore. So often have I raised their issue with the HSE, so often have I raised their issue with your office, with the HSE, and the answers that I get back, no disrespect to you, and I know your bona fides, and I know how hard you're working on this, but to the HSE, are just, some of them are outrageous. Some of them are outrageous, and I'll give you an example. And I've raised this, I know you and I met on the 6th of April. I've raised this 26th of May directly with the HSE and the Public Accounts Committee. Today is the 12th of July. But some of these cases I've been raising now for 2 years. But one case in particular, a young girl whose initials are AS and doesn't need to go further than that. I got a letter back from the HSE telling me, just by way of example, just by way of the standard that's coming from the HSE, I got a letter back on the 1st of February 2022 from the HSE telling me that AS had had her assessment of needs completed on the 10th of May 2021 and was subsequently referred to the HSE school age team on the 20th of May 2021. So I went back to her parents and I said, God, that's great, isn't it like? And they came back to me and they said, we've read your letter, we're a bit confused. She has never been assessed by the HSE. Never been assessed. So I went back to the HSE and I said, it turns out she hasn't been assessed. The parents say she hasn't been assessed, and I'm pretty sure they know what they're talking about, what's the situation. And they said, God, sorry about that, Deputy. That was an error. We'll come back to you with the most up-to-date. I'm still waiting, still waiting. So, and that's just one case. And I've brought these to different levels of attention. There's another family where, Minister, I have a pile of these on my desk, and you know that I've raised them with you directly, but that's just by way of the standard. Now, I'm an elected member of Dáil Éireann, as all of these people are, and we're raising these cases time and time again with the HSE. And I can't imagine how difficult it is to be the parent of a child, of an autistic child with acute needs, having to navigate that on a day-to-day basis and try to support their child, and at the same time have to navigate the HSE and try to get assessment of needs and delivery of services for their children. I am beyond, at this point, beyond embarrassed to go back to parents and to say, I didn't even tell them I was raising it today because I'm too embarrassed that every time I have raised it, whether by QPL, in the Public Accounts Committee, directly with the HSE, wherever it happens to be, and I go back and I say, well, I've raised it and I hope we'll get an outcome, nothing ever happens. So I'm too embarrassed to tell them. It's been going on so long. So I'm so encouraged to hear about the meeting 4 weeks ago, and that there'll be some momentum now from the HSE. God between us and all harm, let's hope there is, because there needs to be delivery. How many therapists will it generate? And what will the impact be on service delivery? Because that's all that matters.
Thank you, Deputy. And can I apologise? I'm not an apologist for the HSE, but as Minister with responsibility for disability, it is absolutely soul-destroying, that sort of response, that somebody doesn't know who's on their system or doesn't. The suggestions I have put forward there earlier on to Deputy Tully, as I've shared with all of you here, are my suggestions. I haven't seen the HSE suggestions yet. I have a list of suggestions from listening to all of you and telling me how the system can work. To me, PDS was 10 years in the making, and then it happened. But there didn't seem to be 10 years of planning and delivery, because it just fell between every gap you could imagine. So 743 therapists are now not in the system, that are unfilled posts. What I presented is my suggestions as to how I think. And I am not a clinician. I'm not a clinical lead. I'm just a mere politician working with my constituents like year with years, trying to find solutions. So if I think my solutions might go some of the way, I'm really looking forward to the HSE suggestions, who are paid and tasked to find solutions. So I look forward to how they can bolster what I've already said.
Agreed.
To bring delivery in a timely fashion. Because
it is their responsibility to do that. And, we can put forward suggestions, but at the end of the day, they have the clinical expertise and, at least in theory, the management expertise, and it is their responsibility to coordinate that, collate that, coordinate that, and actually deliver it for parents. And, the likes of you and I trying to come up with practical suggestions with no clinical experience or health management experience, really. But all we can do is hold them to account. But it has to happen. Has to
does.
happen.
It certainly does. And I also would like to say as well, Deputy, that it's important it happens in a timely fashion, that it is measurable and accountable. And while I talk about the 743, I need to see those numbers go down, find their way into positions, that we go from a 30% gap in vacancies and 40%, that I am near my 90% operational piece where I can have trainee therapists on site. That is my ambition, and that has to be delivered in a timely pace. And to be honest with you as well, it's important for me to clearly tell you there is a policy shift. It's not Minister Rabbitte says she would like. There's a policy shift within the Department of Health and the Department of Children. That the policy shift is we need to make a transition while the PDS is being rolled out. So it's not an aspiration, it's a policy shift supported by the Taoiseach and supported by government colleagues.